visited Curzon Street, one of the first train stations built in the UK. It has facilitated passengers and freight for over 100 years. Designed by Robert Stevenson, one of Newcastle's finest exports, providing designs and inspiration for constructions across the world. It took 20,000 workers nearly 5 years to build. Today, 27,000 workers have spades in the ground, with so many of them working to reopen and transform. These will serve at the heart of our newest high-speed railway, delivering additional capacity for our network, drawing in huge investment into the region, and of course, therefore helping the whole country and our economy to grow. From land to sea, the UK also has a historic leadership in underwriting prosperity and trade. Shipping continues to drive the global economy today, just as it has done for millennia. Our seas are by far the most important arteries for global trade, carrying over 95% of all goods. But while our maritime industry normally conducts its business beyond the public gaze, recent events have thrust global supply chains right into the spotlight, and in particular, the importance of resilient and secure shipping routes. At Transport, we are charged with ensuring the security of all networks that moves goods, people, and information around the world, and that underpin our way of life and our economy. We have seen Putin weaponize food by trying to crush the economic and humanitarian criticality of Ukraine's agricultural economy. In blockading those Ukrainian ports, Putin has prevented the export of global grain supplies. So our maxim is to ensure the UK is and remains the most secure and reliable nation to trade with globally. Because at a time when Russian aggression is disrupting those established trade routes, it has never been more important for the international community to come together and protect global shipping. So we will work with all our partners to ensure maritime trade and travel continues to operate safely, securely, and sustainably right around the world. Now, conference, there is an elephant in the room today. We cannot ignore that 9 out of 10 train services were at a standstill last Saturday, with further strikes planned tomorrow and this coming Saturday. While our priority, our overwhelming objective, is to grow our economy and tackle the rising cost of living, we also have to deal with rolling strike action. Strikes disrupt everyday life for everyone and slow down our prospects for growth. The more quickly we can resolve these disputes, the sooner all our efforts can be spent on getting our economy motoring at full speed. Despite soaring international energy prices, the war in Ukraine, and the continued global impact of COVID, we must, of course, take that necessary action to help our families and our businesses. We can only do this through growth and having the infrastructure that makes this possible. We want to transform the rail industry to make it sustainable for the next 100 years. So the very last thing that the country needs right now is more damaging industrial disputes. My message to the trade union membership is simple. Please take your seats at the negotiating table and let's find a landing zone which we can all work with. Punishing passengers and inflicting damage on our economy by striking is not the answer. As a former trade secretary, I know something about making deals. And I can tell you there is a deal to be done between the unions and our train operators. It's a deal that will require compromise. So I want to see positive proposals to bridge those differences. As part of these, I am asking industry to launch consultations on reforming our ticket office provision across the country. The way we buy everything, from groceries to holidays, has transformed over the last decade. Online shopping is increasingly the norm, And all our favourite retail stores are using the latest self-service tech, making the in-store experience quicker and smoother, with fewer queues and more convenience. And we are seeing the same trend on the railways, with a huge increase in online ticket sales. Today, only 12% of transactions take place at ticket offices. So we need to be looking at ways to move with the trend and support our customers in the most effective way possible. There will be some stations where the ticket office will be important to the running of the station. In other areas, rail employees may be better in front of the glass, helping passengers in other ways. This is not about cutting jobs. This is about putting the passenger at the heart of the railway. We all want the same outcome: to modernise the railway so that customers can choose rail as their preferred travel method with confidence and with ease. So I hope that union leaders, together with employers, will work with us to deliver the much-needed changes and resolution so that together we can grow the economy for everyone. Conference, just as coal power and steam propulsion powered a global revolution in growth and development, which transformed everything from medicines to transport and brought prosperity across the world, we are at the tipping point of another revolution that has the potential to transform. The way that all our modes of transport are powered is changing at pace. Hydrogen fuels, net zero emission vehicles, sustainable aviation fuels, green shipping corridors. Those markets that change first and have the potential to grow fastest will go the furthest. We want UK business to lead the way on this new clean growth revolution. So that's why we're investing record amounts in our roads, in our railways, and in future green transport solutions to provide the conditions that will make sure business can grow on the back of clean transport. Building the vital connections that will open up access to jobs, education, and housing across the whole of the United Kingdom. This government is unashamedly going for growth. Growth is key to delivering jobs, higher wages, and more money to invest in our world-class public services. And a key part of achieving that growth is keeping our promises and delivering for the people. Speaking as the Member of Parliament who has campaigned for dualling the A1, a road investment first promised in 1992, and I was elected on that promise, delivering on our promises is firmly on my mind. The A1 is just one example. The A303 is another. One of the main gateways to the southwest, it acts as a bottleneck to growth. So we are committed to getting these road solutions delivered. Delivery is the key, something my fantastic ministerial team are all focused on. Kevin Foster is taking on the challenge of modernising our railways. Catherine Fletcher will deliver the roads the Prime Minister has asked me to accelerate, which the Chancellor announced in his growth plan. Baroness Veer will work to decarbonise the aviation industry. And Lucy Fraser will be working on the future of transport, making it fit for a modern world. And our Parliamentary Private Secretaries Marco Longhi, Auntie Brown and Damien Moore in the Whip's office are going to help us to stay on track. As a rural constituency MP, do you know, one of the most common issues that gets raised with me is the state of my local roads. Indeed, I became very popular overnight with many colleagues when I was given this new posting, because I think we all have constituents raising similar issues with all of us. That's why we have set aside a pothole fund to repair 10 million potholes a year. So, motorway or local street? This is a government which will invest so that our country can grow. We are a team that is determined to get spades into the ground at pace. Conference, we've got a lot to do. It's time to get Britain moving. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care and Deputy Prime Minister, Therese Coffey.
Thank you, Conference. I'm delighted to be here in Birmingham for my first speech as Secretary of State for Health and Social Care and as Deputy Prime Minister. I was here just a couple of months ago for the Commonwealth Games, and I was absolutely blown away by the Games themselves and also how this city has been transformed since we were last here. And that is thanks to Conservative Mayor Andy Street. Andy has shown that being ambitious for the people and communities he represents, getting on with the job at hand and focusing on delivery is exactly what our voters want and why he was re-elected resoundingly. Conference, as a Conservative government, we believe in the great British people and we are ambitious for our country. Despite severe challenges facing the global economy, in the wake of Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine and the aftershock of COVID, now is the time we must come together to tackle the issues that we have long faced. And we will take decisive action to get Britain moving again. From getting Britain building, to channeling investment into local areas, to helping families get on in life. We will deliver, deliver, deliver. Conference, our National Health Service has the admiration and gratitude of the British people, particularly for getting us through COVID. The doctors, the nurses, the midwives, the paramedics, the chemists, the cleaners, and all the clinical and support staff, as well as the carers working in care homes or in our communities. They regularly go the extra mile. They are the pride of Britain. The NHS is and always has been a national endeavour. That was set out in 1944 when it was a Conservative politician, Sir Henry Willink, who put forward the proposals for a National Health Service. That's right, a Conservative MP from my home city of Liverpool who conceived the NHS. A good omen, I think. And I continue to be proud of the many doctors, nurses and dentists serving as Conservatives in Parliament, far more than we see in the Labour Party. And it is because of our Conservative Party's commitment to the NHS that we will be spending £173 billion this year on health and social care in England alone, up from £124 billion when we entered office in 2010. This has resulted in more doctors and nurses than ever before. But as Health Secretary, it's my job to be honest and to level with you about the scale of challenge ahead of us. And frankly, I won't be turning to Labour for solutions. If you want to see the Labour Party running the NHS, just look across the border into Wales, where around 60,000 patients are still waiting for more than 2 years for treatment, higher than last year. This isn't the time for brickbats, though. It is precisely because healthcare matters so much that we need to have an honest discussion and be prepared to hold the NHS to account, forging a partnership with them focused on delivery, not dogma. So let's be honest. While most patients receiving care in our NHS have a good experience, too many do not. Whether it's the 8 a.m. scramble to see a GP, or the long waits to get tests or treatment, or the struggle to see an NHS dentist at all. Much of this has been made worse by the pandemic, and I must level with you, backlogs are expected to rise before they fall, as more patients come forward for diagnosis and treatment. But this isn't just about COVID. There is still too much variation in patient experience. I saw that for myself this July when I went to A&E. I waited nearly 9 hours to see a doctor before being asked to return the next day for treatment. Now, I knew from previous experience that would be too late. So I took myself to a different hospital and was treated that same day. That is the sort of variation we see across the NHS, from two hospitals just a couple of miles apart, and it must change. That is why my first job in the department was creating our plan for patients, which puts the needs of patients front and centre. Our new plan for patients deliberately places an emphasis on primary care, the gateway to the NHS for most people. It empowers doctors and nurses by reducing bureaucracy, which gets in the way of them doing their jobs. And it seeks to improve performance across the country by unlocking data. Now, you may have heard A, B, C, D are my immediate priorities. And no confidence, I wasn't broadcasting my A-level results to the nation. Nor was I reciting a new hip-hop beat by Dr. Dre. Those 4 letters represent my commitment to focus resolutely on the issues that affect patients most. Ambulances, backlogs, care, doctors and dentists. And with my excellent ministerial team, Robert Jenrick, Will Quince, Neil O'Brien, Nick Markham, and our very own in-house ministerial medic, Dr. Caroline Johnson, together we will focus on the issues that affect patients most to deliver their priorities and be their champion. Starting with A for ambulances. Access to urgent treatment can be life-saving. When people phone 999 because they think they or their loved one is having a heart attack or stroke, they want to know help will come and will come soon. Let's be clear, average waiting times are too long. So we are increasing the number of 999 call handlers, and we must also get ambulances back on the road from handovers at hospitals. So we are placing a laser-like focus on our most challenged trusts, because as we saw last winter, nearly half of all handover delays were in just 15 trusts. We also know to be able to admit more patients, we need to open up more space in hospitals. So we are acting immediately to create more capacity, the equivalent of 7,000 more beds this winter. But it's not just capacity in our hospitals we need, it's also in our communities to help support people who could be cared for more appropriately at home or in a care home, rather than being kept in hospital unnecessarily. That is why the C for care is such an integral part of our plan, and why we have invested a further £500 million this winter, so local councils and the local NHS can work together to tackle delayed discharges. It isn't all about emergency care, though. It is also about diagnosis and treatment, and that is where we go back to B for backlogs. The waiting list for planned care, made worse by the pandemic, currently stands at about 7 million. This includes people waiting for diagnosis to know if they need any treatment at all. While in England we have now virtually eliminated waits of over 2 years, we are speeding up our plans to roll out community diagnostic centres as well as new hospitals. And we will maximise the use of the independent sector too when patients are waiting too long for treatment. Lastly, but key, is D for doctors and for dentists. Now, I think it is perfectly reasonable when people need to see a GP, they should expect to do so within a fortnight. Of course I would like to be more ambitious, and while I will not be prescriptive on how GPs interact with their patients, I am clear. Patients must be able to see their doctors promptly. Now, to help achieve these priorities, I will publish a lot more information for patients so they can see how their local NHS is performing, including their GP practice, and on access to NHS care and treatment. Another key element is personnel. I've listened to why people say they are leaving the NHS or what is holding them back from offering more services. And I am responding. I'm empowering GPs to use their funding more flexibly for the recruitment of more support staff and making significant changes to pension arrangements. I'm extending the emergency clinical register so that health professionals who have come out of retirement can continue to practice for a further 2 years. I'm opening up more prescription capability and services to pharmacists. I'm investing in IT for telephony and digital appointments. And I'm making it easier for clinicians registered outside England to be accredited, to get to work more quickly treating patients. It is frankly bonkers that we have restrictions on the recognition of doctors, dentists and nurses within the UK itself. That is why I'm laying regulations next week, which will allow the General Dental Council to get on with accrediting dentists to work right across our United Kingdom, so we can have oases of oral care rather than dental deserts. This is all on top of our existing commitments to boost the health and care workforce, including our manifesto pledge to recruit 50,000 more nurses by 2024. Conference, whether you live in a city or a town, in the countryside or on the coast, this Conservative government will always be on your side when you need care the most. Conference, this is just the start of our ambitions for health and care. Our plan informs patients and empowers them to live healthier lives, because we know prevention is better than cure. It is right we continue our longer-term health approach, strengthening mental well-being and resilience, as well as the physical health of our nation, because that is also good for the economic health of the nation. We have a record number of people in work on the payroll, but there are many vacancies still to be filled. We know work is good for you, both physically and for mental well-being, as well as putting more pounds in your pocket. That is why I will strive to support those not working now due to ill health, to help them to start, stay and succeed in work, building on the Prime Minister's pledge to have more mental health support in communities. Because together we can deliver a healthier, more productive society, all the stronger to help grow our economy. As the Prime Minister said on the steps of Downing Street, she has 3 clear priorities: growing the economy, tackling energy security and costs for households and businesses, and the NHS. When I first went into the department, I asked what was the biggest risk, what the biggest risk was this winter, and what we could do to help. I was told, help with energy bills, so older people would not worry about the cost of turning on the heating, and for health and care providers too. The Prime Minister and the Chancellor listened. They acted. They have delivered. And we need to act on growing the economy too. We need a strong economy to have a strong NHS. We need a resilient, sustainable economy to have a resilient, sustainable NHS. And we need a compassionate and considered Conservative government to deliver. And together, Conference, that is exactly what we will do. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, a very good afternoon conference. How are we feeling today? Oh, come on, that was rubbish. How are we feeling today? We're enthused, we're excited. That's what I like to hear. Well, thank you for joining us for this very exciting Levelling Up panel. As the newly appointed Levelling Up Minister, this isn't just something that I am passionate about. This is something that UK government is very passionate about, with levelling up absolutely at its heart. I would never have taken on this job if I didn't think that that was the case, because levelling up is about making sure that we are spreading opportunities right across this country, so that whether you're from Bishop Auckland or whether you're from Brecon and Radnorshire, you have the best opportunities to get on in life. And I'm delighted today to be joined by a wonderful panel of excellent guests, including the Secretary of State for Scotland, Alistair Jack. Give him a hand. The MP for Brecon and Radnorshire and PPS to the Deputy Prime Minister, Faye Jones. And Scotland Office Minister, Malcolm Offords. So, Alistair, start us off. What are your thoughts on levelling up and devolution?
Well, as you said in your introduction, it's a UK-wide mission. It's incredibly important that as Boris Johnson used to say, opportunity was not equally spread across the United Kingdom, but talent was. That's what we know, and that's what we have to address. And in Scotland, we're very fortunate that with a mixture of project funding, we've got £2 billion of funding currently committed to Scotland, and we're all about delivering for local communities, delivering on their priorities, creating jobs, improving the economy. We leave the SNP to be obsessed with separation, with breaking up. They're on a sole mission. They're failing on public services, and we see that in Scotland on education, on health, on drug deaths, on many things. Our focus is very much that the UK government is present in Scotland and is delivering for people at a local level, and that is levelling up.
Absolutely. Faye?
Well, I think we've seen a bit of a journey on both the UK government and the Welsh government working together over the last years. We've seen the best and the worst. I think during the peak of the COVID pandemic, when you really saw political gamesmanship from Mark Drakeford and I think backed up by counterparts in Scotland as well, that was really not what we want to see. At the end of the day, Alistair is absolutely right. Delivery is what our constituents right across the country are concerned with. They don't care who's delivering for them. They want to see a measured standard of improvement in their lives. And I think now we are actually in a good place. We finally got the Welsh Government to come on board with the levelling up agenda, and we can see they are starting to put their gamesmanship behind them. So I think that's really positive. And for someone who represents a constituency which has 65 miles of border with England, we look over the hedge and can see things are working better in England. And I really want us to embrace that agenda in Wales, and fingers crossed in a couple of years' time when we've got an opportunity to have a Conservative government in Wales, and we'll have two Conservative governments at either end of the M4 really working for Wales. I think that's when we'll see real change.
I know you guys are all going to be out there, aren't you, delivering those leaflets and knocking on doors in Wales to make sure that happens. Malcolm, your thoughts?
I think from a Scottish point of view, this is one of the most important initiatives that UK government have put forward, and it's fundamentally going to strengthen the union. Because what we're saying here is that we want, as I said before, opportunity has not been shared throughout the UK, but talent is everywhere. And in Scotland, there's been a narrative pushed by the Scottish National Party that Scotland was treated badly and differently by the UK, and in fact, quite the opposite. But this is an initiative that shows us that we are the same opportunity being given to all regions of England has also been given to Scotland. And what we discovered is of the 32 local authorities in Scotland, many of whom are not run by Conservative majorities, 30 of those councils are bidding for levelling up. Many of them are SNP-controlled councils, and they're saying to us, you know what, we haven't seen anyone from the UK very much for the last 20 years, and you're in town, you've got good ideas, you've got money, we want more rather than less engagement from the UK government. So it's been a brilliant initiative for us.
Brilliant. Well, on this snazzy new policy we have, Alistair, on investment zones, but also on free ports, tell us about those. Tell us about the potential they have for delivering in Scotland.
Well, it's about Scotland's two governments working together, and on free ports, we're a bit behind the curve. I was very fortunate earlier in the summer to go and visit Ben Houchen's Teesside, Teesworks free port, which was inspirational, and he already had let 50-acre sites to people. I think on the 7th of July they were cutting the first turf for Sears. But more than that, there was a 1,045-metre deep water quay going in. And you will know all these things from being from that part. But it was so impressive to see, but for me also depressing that they had such a head start, because we had spent the thick end of 18 months negotiating with the Scottish Government to agree a free port strategy for Scotland. We've now got there. We have 5 bids from Orkney, Peterhead and Aberdeen, the Clyde, the Forth, and Inverness and Cromarty. And we're now at a position where we're ready to announce, we've decided the winners, if you like. We've agreed it with the Scottish Government. We're ready to announce those winners, and we'll be doing that imminently. But I want also to offer those 5 areas in investment zone status, which will give them other advantages to go alongside. And actually, I wouldn't be upset if, for instance, Stranraer and Cairn Ryan, who pulled out of their Freeport bid, that's at I declare an interest here, that's at the west end of my constituency. But that's where the sailings are to Larne and Belfast. And I would love it if, with Larne and Belfast, they became an investment zone. That would be a great sort of union message. We like that. And it would bring, hopefully, more investment and more levelling up. So I say this in advance because we now have to work with the Scottish Government, because part of the IZ offering is in the devolved space. So we now have to work with the Scottish Government to get to the place where we can take the investment zone offering out into and have bidding and people bidding for it. And as I say, the 5 bidders for free ports would be a very good start, but there will be other areas that want to bid. And I think it will be very important for the levelling up agenda. I think it will make a huge, huge difference, because it's not just the tax breaks, it's the inward investment that will follow that will create better quality jobs and improve people's livelihoods.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Malcolm, you and I were up in Orkney last week talking to people as part of the Islands Forum, and it struck me that there was an awful lot of positivity around growth deals.
Yes. We were there actually to talk mostly about energy. But we asked the delegates from all the islands in the UK what was their major concern with the change of government. And their response was, is levelling up still going to happen? And it was a tremendously positive environment. In fact, I saw you you were having selfies with a whole number of SNP councillors on the levelling up agenda. And I think what's coming through here is that this is actually real devolution. This is not central government coming to communities and telling them what's good for them. This is us going to local communities and saying, what do you want in your community? If you take my community in Inverclyde, which is considered one of the most deprived areas in Scotland, the local people have decided the projects they want to back. And when the council, the chief executive of the council, said to me that when they went out for engagement to the community, they got the greatest response on levelling up in anything they've done in 20 years. And that's supposedly within a deprived area, which actually is saying they want the tools to improve their lives. They're aspirational, just like the rest of us. And we're in a position now, by allowing the local people to select their own projects, to empower them to improve their own communities. And surely that is what the basic value of being a Conservative is.
And Faye, we need to talk about Wales. Always. So you were elected back in 2019, so we're still quite new, slightly less fresh face than I think either of us would like to be at the moment. How have you found the relationship between UK government and Welsh government?
Well, I think it certainly has improved over the last 3 years. We have a constructive dialogue now. I'm really pleased at last they've come on board with the idea of a free port, and that bidding process is currently underway. And with any luck, we will have at least one free port in Wales, hopefully announced in the spring. And levelling up as well, I think the great benefit of levelling up is actually that we are working directly with local authorities in Wales, which is absolutely fantastic. My local authority, Powys, is one of the largest areas in Wales, but yet we never received any European Union funding. And isn't this the great benefit of Brexit, that we are actually able to take our money and put it directly into community projects? And as Malcolm correctly says, this is from the ground right up. This is bottom-led. So I think, not only is the relationship between the UK government and the Welsh government so much stronger now, despite the occasional hiccup, they're not, really fully engaged with the idea of economic prosperity and more jobs and a better standard of living. But, the UK government is dragging them along. We are in a much better place now. And, I really am seeing the benefit For the first time, my constituency got funding, and we got £7 million, which is probably not very much, but in my part of Powys, that is going to make a huge difference. We're going to be able to add better facilities to Theatr Brycheiniog in Brecon. We're going to be able to build on some brownfield sites in Llandrindod Wells. These are tired towns that need love and need to come back into use, because I know that Wales is the best part of the United Kingdom, but I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident.
This is not the time. This really isn't the time to start this argument.
Yes, sorry, union, yes, that's it. No, but parts of Wales do need a bit more love. And, we live in a very rural part of the country, which can look quite beautiful, but we mustn't forget rural problems and rural deprivation. So I'm really, really glad that the UK government has got this laser-like focus on driving up communities right across the country.
Brilliant. And Alistair, we've talked about the relationship between the Welsh Assembly and the UK government. What about Scotland, with those quite intense political differences at times?
Yeah, I'm not going to soft-soap this. It's very difficult. I mean, I get up every day, as does Malcolm, as do the entire Scotland office, and we go to work to strengthen the United Kingdom. OK, let's be clear about that. The Scottish government get up and go to work every day to break up the United Kingdom. I mean, that's how it is. They want to separate. I think we all know separation is painful. It's not where we are. We believe in strengthening the United Kingdom. And we've had a breakthrough on free ports after a very long negotiation. I hope we'll get one in investment zones. But we also want to, for instance, Sir Peter Hendy did a very good union connectivity review. And there's a lot of good that can be done out of that. We want to work with the Scottish Government to deliver on that. We want to deliver small nuclear reactors that help power the grid, bring down energy costs. They're totally against nuclear. It's not the old nuclear power stations. These small nuclear reactors do a job for the grid. And the idea that everything can be delivered from renewables is not realistic, because it doesn't matter how much offshore wind you have in the North Sea. If it's a cold night in December and the wind isn't blowing, they ain't generating any power. So you do have other things for the base load grid, whether people like to hear it or not. The base load for the grid needs other forms of support. So there's that. And there are a number of other initiatives that we want to work with them on. We think all of these things will either bring down the cost of living to people, and a good example of that would be gene editing. So at the moment we have a gene editing bill going through Westminster. It is not genetic modification. That was a complete misunderstanding with the Scottish Government Minister at the beginning. We've made this very clear. Gene editing is what happens naturally, but you're just speeding it up. Farmers have been doing it for centuries. But actually, when you're facing issues around climate, adverse weather, whether it's problems applying pesticides and other issues that farmers face, gene editing can help you with that, and it can make your crops less expensive to produce, which brings down the cost of food, and it can obviously enhance the yields as well. And we want the Scottish Government to get on board with that. At the moment, they're resisting it because they're tracking EU rules and regulations. That, to us, is a mistake. And actually, the National Farmers Union of Scotland and many others, the James Hutton Institute, who are the world leaders on gene editing and based in Dundee, they want the Scottish Government to get on board. So again, it's this constantly working with them, but trying to persuade them to come on board, because these things are devolved. We have to respect that. But equally, gene editing can make a massive difference to the price of food in the shops and to the productivity of farmers. And our farmers want to be as competitive as English farmers, and we've got to back them on that.
Well, Faye, I see you nodding along there. You have a huge farming community.
Yes. Brecon and Radnorshire is beef and sheep farming country, and equally, we have the same blockage in the Welsh Government. They do not want to pursue gene editing legislation. And Alistair is absolutely right. This could benefit all of our farmers. This could increase our benefit to the environment, reduce our reliance on fertiliser, which is an eye-watering cost at the moment. So this is a huge win-win. And I really don't understand what the Welsh Government has against innovation, progress, better environmental delivery. And once again, with my 65 miles of a border with England, we're looking across the way at farmers and an environment that are getting a helping hand from their government, and we in Wales are not getting that. We are always being held back by the Welsh Government, but this is a particularly egregious example of how they are standing in the way of farmers and farming businesses and the environment.
Well, this is the point at which UK government can step in and work with the devolved administrations to unlock these real tangible things, because often it isn't the tangible day-to-day things that are talked about by the Welsh Assembly and the Scottish Government. So, Malcolm, I want to touch on transport. How's that relationship going?
Well, transport is devolved, and so the Scottish Government will say that has to be done only by them. But then you have trade routes that go through, that connect Northern Ireland to England through Scotland. And actually, why are we not able to upgrade, for example, A75, when in fact that's what the businesses in Ireland are saying and the business in the north of England are saying? And so actually it's a frustration that we say, look, we want to work with you. Yes, it's devolved, but surely in this area there's a wider UK initiative. And I think that is a battle I think that we're winning now. Alistair, that's in your constituency. You know the difficulty of that particular conversation. Yeah. But the Henry report was actually designed to be a UK-wide. And it's very important to remind all of us in all parts of the United Kingdom that we remain united. We still remain one country. That devolution settlement was meant to have certain devolved areas for the local administrations to run better their local affairs. But, for example, we were in Orkney last week. Orkney and Shetland, who are now at the centre of the revolution of wind power, they want to feel that they're at the centre of this debate. And it's a UK debate, isn't it? We didn't feel that was classified as a Scottish matter. It was a UK matter. So I think this is very helpful for us getting the debate back to UK-wide matters.
Completely so. So we've only got a few minutes left. So I'm going to ask you each the same question, one final question.
The tricky question.
The tricky question. Yeah. What is your one main hope for the future for Scotland? Alistair.
I was hoping you were going to start with Malcolm. I thought that would be...
Well, Malcolm, I'll come to you first and let Alistair off.
No. I mean, it's not, I wasn't going to pass the buck. No. I mean, my hope for Scotland is does it have to be levelling up, the answer?
I mean, personally, I prefer it. But given that's my brief, but no.
So I think it's linked with levelling up. Okay, I think it's because I think the thing, I'm going to slightly twist and get my answer in here. The thing that is holding, we've seen the Scottish economy grow slower than the English economy over the last decade. Okay, we know there's uncertainty being caused in Scotland by the SNP perpetually banging on about separation. And we know that creates uncertainty for business, and we also have Scotland as the highest tax part of the United Kingdom. And what I would say is this, is that I want to see us win the case in the Supreme Court, which is coming up on the 10th to 11th of October, which Sturgeon has taken to the Supreme Court. I want to see us win that, win it well, because I believe the 1998 Scotland Act, it was very clear what was reserved and what was devolved. Malcolm's just touched upon that. So I want to see us win that case strongly. Sturgeon said that she intends to have a referendum on October the 19th, 2023. I want to get through that date, and where I'm confident there won't be a referendum. And I want to put the whole matter to be put to bed, and for the SNP to recognise that actually focusing on the economy and the things that people go to bed at night worrying about, that's the levelling up agenda. People don't go to bed and worry about being part of the United Kingdom. They worry about their jobs or their children's education or their parents' health, or whatever it may be. Those are the things. They worry about how much money they've got to spend, etc., etc. We know all these. That's what people go to bed worrying about. They don't go to bed worrying about being part of the United Kingdom. And the sooner the SNP realise that and start delivering on the day job, the better. And that's my hope for Scotland.
Absolutely. Quite right. So, Malcolm, we'll stick on Scotland. We're pushed for time, so I'm going to give you 30 seconds to sum up your key hope. I imagine it'll be quite similar.
Well, it's very simple for me. Scotland has 8% of the population of the United Kingdom and 33% of the geography. Whatever we do, we have a solemn obligation to always punch above our weight. And we must always do, therefore, more than 8% whatever we do. So whether it's energy, we're producing 20% probably of UK's energy. We have 20% of food and drink exports in Scotland. We have a very strong position in financial services. We have 15% of university grants in our universities. Let's hammer home the position and allow the Scots to be proud in the Union, because they contribute, they punch above the weight, and the Scots are happiest in the Union when that is recognised.
And Faye, 30 seconds, your key hope for Wales.
Gosh, I'll try and do it quickly. All I want for Wales is fairness. I want to be treated like every other part of the United Kingdom. To give you one example, we have 300 patients in England who have waited over 2 years for their treatment. In Wales, that's 60,000 people. It really is that bad and has been that bad. And friends, I have lived in opposition in Wales for 22 years. And so, I really feel this horrendous sense of injustice about what's going on in Wales, because they are being shortchanged by a Welsh government that only delivers on a very small amount of area for the South Wales valleys and parts of the North East. They couldn't give a monkeys about my part of mid-rural Wales. So all I want is fairness. I think the only way to deliver that is, as I say, two Conservative governments working at either end of the country to deliver for people in Wales. We've been left behind far too long.
Brilliant. Well, there is a call to arms for the elections next year. Well, friends, thank you for your time and for your interest. I think we can all agree that there are huge challenges ahead, but I like to be a bit more optimistic. I like to say that there are huge opportunities ahead. The only way we're going to grasp those opportunities is making sure that the devolved administrations and the UK government are working hand in hand to deliver true levelling up for every part of this great United Kingdom. Thank you very much.
Please welcome the Secretary of State for Education, Kit Malthouse, and his ministerial team.
Are you sitting comfortably? Friends, of all the work we've done together as a party and indeed as a nation over the last 12 years, in my view, the work of which we should be most proud is the work we've done in education. Wherever you look, there is a story of progress and success. We now have, of the 10 million kids who are in school, about 8 million in good or outstanding schools. That's an enormous leap forward over the last 12 years. In literacy, we now have about 82% of kids at 6 reading fluently, rising to 91% at 7. We're at the highest level, at 8th in the World Literacy League table, our highest score that we've ever had. And these are enormous steps forward. 10 years ago, a very small number, well, not very small, about 60% of kids were taking science at GCSE. We're now at 90%. History and geography at below 50%, now at 80%. It's a huge step forward. And at the same time, we've seen the record numbers of disadvantaged kids going through university over the last decade, as well as the incredible work we've done to turbocharge the skills agenda and the FE sector, opening up a whole new area of choice for young people. And so that story of success is something which we as a team want to celebrate with you over the next 2 years, but also reflect on the fact that there's still an awful lot more to do. Right? This huge organisation, this vast franchise, if you like, of UK, of England education, needs constant attention and constant pressure from us as demanding friends to drive it forward. And we've set ourselves 4 key missions. First of all, on schools, we want to be much more assertive